join me in the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I apologize right off the bat for my voice and cough. I will try to keep them the wrap, but I can't promise today. We have a few missing tonight, but we do have enough for a quorum, so we will move along. Any adjustments to the agenda?
Yes, there are. On the new business, new business, G, staff resignations, add Carol Moore's world language, Comas Regional Middle School, Darian Wren, interventionist, Sebastian Valley Elementary School, Robin Bassford, bus driver, Dixmont Run. Then under D, staff appointments, Michael Holt, maintenance part-time, Scott Dion, cook, DDS, and Michelle Davis at Tech 1 at EDS. That's all I have.
I would entertain a motion for the January 10th meeting.
So moved.
Second. A motion and a second on the floor. Any discussion on the special meeting? All those in favor? Any opposed? And then a motion for the regular meeting on January 10th.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor for the regular meeting. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you very much. Moving on to public forum. Comments. This is the time for anyone in the audience who would like to address the board.
I have a question. I have 2 kids in high school, and as a parent, I'm not feeling safe sending my kids to school anymore because of weapons, drugs, stuff like that. I had my daughter tell me the other day the cool thing now is to be pregnant. They have told me that any given moment you can go into any of the bathrooms and find any drug you want. Cigarettes, e-cigarettes, pills. There's a kid selling Plan B pills to students. My daughter texted me the other day about a knife that a kid brought in his backpack that she was freaked out about. What is being done?
Have you talked to the principal about all these things that are specific?
What's the point?
Well, if there's specific things at specific times, the cameras, we can find out who it is, what's going on. I know there was a kid that was suspended for a knife the other day. Was that the same knife? I mean, it happens. So you're not going to know about every student who gets suspended or is dealt with.
But it's a daily situation.
And the more we know about things, the better off. But if you say it's not worth it to talk to the principal, she's the one who's got in the front office with the security person, with the assistant principal who can look into the situations, look at cameras, and take care of it. Coming to the board and discussing 5 things that we can't research in the next 5 minutes, I can't really give you a good answer.
But it's an ongoing issue, and nothing is being done.
A blanket statement like that is nothing being done. I know there are things being done. Like I said, we're looking at cameras, there's kids been suspended, there's kids that referred to law enforcement. I mean, seeing nothing.
But if you have a kid that's busted for having drugs, and he goes to the office and 20 minutes later he's back in class, where is that? There's no consequences there. Right now, to me, when my kids come home, it's the inmates are running the asylum right now.
I do think that that is something that maybe Mary can meet with you and discuss and maybe come up with a plan or at least let you know what's going on.
Why can't somebody tell me now what's going on? What is there to prevent from a kid bringing a big Bowie knife in his backpack to school? What is there to prevent kids from selling drugs to kids in school?
Mary, do you have any comments or?
Sure, like I wish that, you call or have your daughter come in and tell us that. I can tell you there's been no.
My daughter tells me, she tells the teachers, tells everybody, and nothing
Well,
gets
you should come
done.
down to the office, because I don't, like, I'm not sure who your daughter is, so I don't know if I've met with her, but I can tell you, no kid who's been, you know, found with any kind of possession of drugs has just been sent back to class. Like, that doesn't happen. We confiscated no pills off any student this year. I think, you know, are there times when things happen in a bathroom? Yeah, you know, and like, I think that's an issue. That's been an issue in high school for as long as I've been affiliated with high schools. But I think that there's some kind of pandemonium going on, like it's not happening. We have teachers on hall duties. Both the assistant principal and I are in and out of bathrooms regularly during the day. You know, I feel bad if someone's, you know, feeling that way. Do kids bring pocket knives, you know, that kind of clipped on their belt? Like, I bet if we looked around the room, there'd probably be a couple people in here right now who have
Yeah, but we're
those type of
adults.
knives. We've never taken, like, I think in the 21 years I've been in building administration, there's been one knife taken off a student that would qualify beyond like a pocket knife, and that was about 15 years ago. There have been no reports of students bringing like a weapon to enact any kind of violence. You know, so like some of this, like if this is kind of chatter out there, it's a little unfair to say nothing's being done about it when nobody wants to report it. Like, you know, it's a big building with a lot of people, and we do need people to report things. And
Right, I understand that, but what I'm saying is, it's been reported.
not to
stuff
me,
like that.
not to the assistant principal. Like, there's not been one thing that's been reported that we have not followed up with. And when it pans out to do that, it's been addressed by the policies we have or the rules.
So everybody I've talked to that has told me about this stuff is lying to me then?
Well, they might be like speculating, like, you know, if somebody goes in the bathroom and somebody takes a,
It's not speculating when it's coming from, I've talked to teachers, I've talked to the security officer, I've talked to a board member about it.
well, it kind of makes me feel bad that you go around everybody but maybe the school administration.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, what is the point of talking to the school administration when the actual teachers, the security officer, a board member doesn't even have backup to deal with this stuff when the kids are just running rampant?
Wow.
What I would suggest is to make an appointment and sit down with the principal and discuss, and the assistant principal as well, and discuss what you've heard and see if they, you know, if it is a definite or if it's just speculation.
Okay,
Anyone else have anything they would like to bring towards? If not, we will move on. Communications. Administration communications,
Packet.
very good. Superintendent,
I don't have anything.
reports.
I sent you a report that was kind of the most recent happenings late last week. This week, we're pretty much immersed in the budget process. Friday afternoon, I did walk down through the back of Nokomis and saw 80 students that were sleeping over with Colonel Clark, and it's quite an experience where they're building the shelters, getting ready to boil water and have a food cooking contest. And it was some students are there for their 4th year and trying to earn a block of ice. And not quite sure what the draw is on that, but those kids definitely are engaged and involved and working really hard doing the JROTC program. It was really nice to see. And from my understanding, there wasn't any incidences of too bad in behavior. They do have the Army Guard comes down from the University of Maine of Orono, so there was 11 or 12 kids that come down and they get leadership service as well. And then we have a parent who was a certified EMT, and I believe he just completed his nursing credentials. So it was definitely well covered by supervision, but it was really a neat experience to look at the shelters and the things that those kids were doing on Friday night.
It wasn't the horribly cold weekend.
No, it was warm actually. They were putting their tents together and they were in their t-shirts.
The word on the street is that is the best time that they've had so far in high school.
Yeah, it's neat.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
really,
That's good to hear.
Yeah. Anything? Not really.
Board chair information report, I don't have one other than, please be mindful of the committees that you're on and try to attend. We've had a couple that could have been canceled if somebody hadn't walked in at the last minute, and so it's kind of frustrating. If you can't make a meeting, please let the superintendent or me know, and we will do our best to either cancel it or get a different date. And we want to make sure that we have good attendance. Moving along, reports of special committees. Budget and finance, there is no meeting.
I believe the next meeting is the start of budget workshops on Monday after vacation. All right, yeah. Ha.
The 27th.
Thank you, Joe.
Very good. It's an interesting committee, so.
And that meeting is at 5:30. Those budget committee meetings for going over the itemized budget will be at 5:30 this year.
Very good. Building.
So we've actually split 2 meetings in this month. The first one was on January 11th, right after the last board meeting. The updates there include the old superintendent's office, which is up for sale. Price has been dropped to $399. And we are keep having showings, but or interest, but we aren't in a hurry to sell, so we'll take our time and see where that goes. Somerset had a boiler check valve that failed and was replaced. We had a door installed between special education classrooms. We had a number of screened windows. Sebasticook, what was VFD again? Control? Ventilation control. Was failed and replaced. Roof patch was done. Kitchen hood exhaust motor died and had to be replaced. Rescreening windows, which is kind of the current thing. Etna Dixmont, the mixing valve failed and was replaced in the water system, and then the roof patch at ×2 on that. Classroom lighting, removing the old T12s and replacing them with a more efficient unit. And then we have an indirect water heater that is in the budget to replace, but is not done yet. Nokomis, we had power boards on our overhead doors in the chip building. Fire system had 3 trips with failed magnets, and in the kitchen we had some smoke detectors that kept tripping, so those have been replaced with heat detectors. Combustion blower in the boiler room had to be replaced. Heat trace controller for domestic hot water, breaker and restore power in high school cafeteria. An air conditioning failure in the high school data closets. So that was a trip reset. And then control panel for one of the side baskets in the gym had a bad relay. We're still working on the EDS driveway, particularly the turning circle, but with snow on the ground and frost on the ground, we don't want to do anything until it starts spring. Football lighting, we have a number of options on the lights, whether we use our poles and lights, new poles. So Simon is working with Musco and Andy Leale to get more specific scope of work and prices that we have to have. And then we have a few of our businesses in the area who are willing to donate some supplies and labor, but we need to have a more precise definition of what we need to do. Somerset Water, this is the one that we're working on. Our well is tested PFAS negative, which is good. And then we have Nokomis, which has a door meeting on the 23rd to finish getting things set up there. We're sending out snow removal for bid. And then switching to our February 8th meeting, no additional projects or repairs to repair. That we had that nasty cold snap in between these meetings. And one of the things they did was go through open doors, open the gym dividers, make sure that all the large areas were open so that air could circulate, and then close the blinds to increase the insulated value on the windows, and apparently had no problems. The heating plant got brought up for fire control because Colby just had a fire in their chip boiler, which is of a similar construction, not the same. But so one of the things that we've got here is we've got a logbook. We record and log the maintenance that's done on the chips, and so when anybody has to come in to work on the thing, they can actually look back and see what was done and track the maintenance progress that's been there. So, and then Jess gave an update on the naming committee and is still collecting all of those wonderful surveys to see what was there. And then we noted a couple under other that the bus garage phone number, which is on the website, might be the wrong number to get to anybody on a regular basis, so we put in the other number that is more appropriate.
Jess, did you have anything you wanted to add about the naming committee?
Just that if people haven't completed their surveys, to please do that so we can move forward, because there's just a small amount that have come through so far, and we're hoping to get more responses so people can have their voice heard. But at this point, we don't have all that.
Is there a deadline?
I was hoping it was going to be this week, but
Yeah, there
we're
was,
still waiting.
it was originally the 13th. There was some ballots that were sent, because we sent them all out through Newport. They got stuck in Newport. They got to get to Dixmont, they got to go to Carmel. They got stuck between Carmel and Newport, but they've gotten since now to where they need to be, and we'll get out. We're going to give people a few more days on the written ones, and then the electronic ones coming back through. I think I saw 136 maybe.
Yeah, and it's 115 last week, so I know some stragglers.
Yeah, so trying to get as many as we can, but yeah, we kind of want to wrap it up this week. Keeping it going.
Yeah, we can move forward.
Just in order to wrap it up, I know this has been like a hot topic for some people, like if we could just put on like publish a deadline, like please have all ballots in by, if we could just make that public, would that be okay to do? Just so it's one final warning across the ballot for everyone. Thank you.
Any other questions? Building. Moving along to education.
Yeah, we had the technology integrator, Amber Wiles Chamberlain, came in and talked a little bit about what she's doing for K-4 students. She has some neat little robots and some mats that she's been giving to for a grant. For the state of Maine's giving out grants to schools at different grade levels, and she's kind of been explaining the exploratory projects she's been doing with those students. Some of the other things that she does when she's in the classroom, work on technology with the students, and also, you know, discussing, continues to talk about digital citizenship and how kids can be safe, responsible, respectful when using the technology, and you know, continuing to hammer on that point as kids start with technology earlier and earlier. She has some testimonials and some videos as well with students working with the robotics. Then we went into a conversation on kind of the process of looking at books that maybe people feel strongly about one way or another. And it was kind of not as much of a challenge, probably pre-K to grade 4, but there are principals and librarians looking at those books at the lower level, and then when you get to the middle school, if you want to take out a book on the high school side, you need to have your parents' permission. If there's books that you'd like to have your kids not be seen or content around that, you can definitely have a conversation with the principal or Joanne in the library. Same thing goes for at the high school level if there's topics or it's hard to pull a topic out of any book to guarantee that you're never going to see that content, but if there are things in our titles in our school, what do you call it? Destiny software will let parents know what content is in a specific book or and then there is also people that Joanne works with, the Curtis Review, the School Library Journal, the American School Library Journal, that gives recommendations for grade levels to certain books, and also the authors come up with that. So there is definitely a number of layers of people looking at the content and the books that come through, and at any point in time, if a parent wants to have a conversation with the principal or the librarian to say, listen, these are the types of books or content I don't want my student around, that can definitely happen, and we will do. We do have controversial policies that, you know, we can definitely go through that channel if they felt strongly. We haven't had any contested material lately. However, we will definitely put out that process that if parents want to know what it is that they can do to be proactive, we can definitely do so, and we'll do that continually throughout the year. Like, go look at Destiny, have a conversation with your classroom teacher, your principal, or your librarian, and stay ahead of it as opposed to, you know, to having them get to the content without your parents' knowledge. And that's about it. We also are going to, even if a student wanted to do interest library loan, that book could also be flagged for doing. And future agenda coming up, we're going to try to take a look at that drug and alcohol policy. You know, we've looked at part of it, but we want to bring that back at the next board agenda for policy and education.
And there were several board members that were at the education committee that asked if we could go back to school when they did the robots. It was very fascinating. Any questions for?
I think it's important to mention that if a parent has a title of a book that they don't want their student to have access to, there is a form that they can complete to opt out of that. They can do that at any time, so if that is ever a cause for concern, they can be proactive and take care of that on their own.
And that was one of the big topics of conversation, is that we want to make parents aware that there is the Destiny, not card catalog, but book catalog, that they can go onto our website and look at. It will give them, you know, they can check titles there, and it will tell you if that book is in one of our libraries. And that they do have the opportunity to put in a report that they don't want their child to have certain books. So, but we want to make that abundantly clear, and we'll be getting it here. Okay, moving on.
Quick one.
Oh,
So that software, or the program, or whatever, there's a link to that. Is that on the school-specific websites, or is that?
If you go into the our RSU.org website, I found it, and I went in on the menu, or it is one that says library, and I clicked on that, and right on it had that, and you could go, and I think Mark checked that out as well.
And is that the same program where the form is, or is that?
No, the form is under our policies, so they'd find that under district policies.
Where they could contact the library or the principal.
Anything else? Paul?
Have we determined whether there's any of the, in the news, 18 books that people all over the country are trying to say is too risque, or we're missing the boat. Yes, we can allow individual parents to say no, but at what point does this school board, the adults in the room, say that that book is inappropriate for any student? They are out there, they're in the news, they are ultimately, undeniably inappropriate for any student, high school or otherwise, to be here. So the permission slip or the I don't want my student taking this book out is just a Band-Aid for the moral problem we have in society, is allowing this stuff to be here, period. So that didn't, apparently that subject didn't get down the road far enough to straighten that mess out.
Unless we know the titles of the books on that set 18 list, there's no way to determine if those inappropriate books are in the library.
Well, that's, but Jen, that, they have been out there in public for the last year, pretty hot and heavy.
Right, but we
It
don't
would be
know
up
if
to
they're
the
here, is
librarian
the point.
to make sure that these controversial books are not here, or if they are here, tell everybody that they are here, and then we can start making decisions from this point forward. You know, I may think it's appropriate for my 17-year-old kid to have access to a Playboy magazine, but you wouldn't leave it in this library. That's when we need to start being ahead of the, and I've used the term the lunatics around the asylum. If we cower down to these factions and this woke mob that the society is generating, and these books are on these shelves right here, we as a school board should know that, and we don't. That's a problem. And we haven't gone far enough. We need to start taking this stuff more seriously. We got individual kids' rights, this. My parent is wide open to all this stuff, but then because one parent is wide open to anything goes, it don't mean that the book should be on a library, among other things. We've gone nowhere with this stuff. Nowhere.
So which parents' rights, supersede another parent's rights?
Oh, okay, I want the Playboy book in this library.
Well,
Can you
bring that conversation forward.
Will you put it on the shelf?
Bring
I
that
say
con-
not.
Bring the conversation forward. You
I
want to
say
meet
not.
and
Well, it's up to the administrators to make sure the students don't have access to this immoral stuff. And because you're gonna play the fine line, of what's moral to you is not moral to this person, but I think we as adults can come up with a conclusion that some of this stuff is immoral and it shouldn't even be in this school building, let alone have some parents sign up and say, no, I don't want my kid to take it out. We gotta start standing up as a school board.
I agree with Paul to a degree, but the hard part is, first of all, we don't know what's labeled inappropriate and to find out if they're even in our school to begin with. So that point is very difficult to combat. And then
Right, I can find it in probably 20 minutes.
Then secondly, on that situation too, is just because we want children to have something of interest does not mean it needs to be in a school library. There's public libraries that there's access to in all of our surrounding towns that can go and get that type of material. So it's not that it's being limited to them, it's just maybe something that is risque if he's talking about those types of books or Playboy magazines, that they could find somewhere else that was easily accessed. So it is a fine line, but then again, whose feelings are we worrying about hurting all the time? Because that's really what it comes down to. My son, my daughter wants access to this and that and the other thing, but it doesn't mean it's appropriate to be in a school setting.
So Paul, if you could get that list to me, we'll check and see if those books are in our library.
It's talked about for the last year off and on in certain school districts.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, moving on to policy.
So our last meeting was devoted entirely at looking at the latest iteration for the dress code, school dress code, which was presented to us by the administration. And We had a long conversation about it. And in the end, I believe we decided to almost unanimously recommend passing this. And so I guess, I'm not 100% sure, but maybe I should make a motion to that effect and then have a couple more comments. So I would make a motion that we accept for first reading policy JICA, student dress code.
I have a motion and a second on the floor. Any discussion on the motion?
And I would just say that, you know, I've joined with many others in voting not to accept for first reading the previous policies that have been presented. My understanding is, at this point, we really need something on the books to support the dress codes that are already in place and allow for the schools to, you know, internally continue to discuss it. I think they've heard a lot of what the school board members have had to say. And going forward, I don't think this excludes the possibility to continue a discussion regarding student dress code and expectations that we would have. So I would support accepting this for first reading.
Thank you very much. Any other comments?
To me, it just seems like you took out all the specifics and it's very, very generic. So there's no, like, it doesn't expose undergarments, does not cover the body, doesn't cover the body to what extent. Like, this is very, like, up to the principals, I guess. Like, they can be like, oh, well, I don't think that covers the body, or, nah, I think that covers the body enough. Like, there's no specifics, like, anybody should go that way. I mean, I don't know. It's not really policy.
It's very big.
Yeah.
Paul?
We've made minor changes to it. Believe it or not, I showed up to this committee meeting. Apparently, I somehow absentmindedly skipped my own committee meeting. But I did show up to this meeting, and I probably was one of the dissenting people to even show up for a first reading. It's very vague. Yeah, there's been minor changes, so minor that when we turned it back for the committee last time, it's so minor that we should turn it back. Why kick the can down the road? Let's take a hold of this student dress code and let's make it mean something. I would, if you've all heard my in favor of school uniforms, if we have to slow walk to a more concise kind of a school uniform, I'm entirely in favor of it. Why do we need to slow walk it? We got the policy before the board and the committee right now. Why do we have to vote it in, unlike Obamacare? Got to vote it in to make sure we know what's in it. That's kind of the theory on that. Let's kick this back. Let's get into it. Let's get into it tooth and nail. Let's dig into it. And if we have to slow walk to make it palatable to get closer to a school uniform, if you say these two things are acceptable, you don't have to have 3/4 of this thing. A sweatshirt and whatever you want. And these people have too much to do to decide whether that's too much skin or that's this, that's that. Let's not slow walk it and wait for the next time the cycle runs around and take a hold of this dress code again. Let's kick it back to the committee, let's get into it, and let's shake it up, and let's kind of slowly go towards a quasi-school uniform. I would be in favor of an outright school uniform. That would eliminate all this is that and that's that, it's not acceptable and whatnot. We kicked it back and we changed 2 or 3 little things. Let's kick
It
it
most
back.
certainly could go back to the committee, but the problem is that only those people on the committee address this every meeting. And they made changes, but they not necessarily felt the same way you do. And so we've either got to pass the policy or not have a dress code policy.
Well,
Because we don't seem to be getting any further ahead.
it does not matter that, it doesn't matter that we want to slow walk something or anything. It matters that we come up with the right policy that upholds what the administrators can see coming through this door every day. We are too, this board has become a hostage to the politically correct, the toxic wokeism that this country is coming up with.
Yes.
And this right here, no better policy to start. We need to start taking our policies one by one and making them more usable. And this is a fine example of what you could do to take back this toxic wokeism and political correctness that's been running this country for the last 30, 40 years. We're the adults here. We need to rein that all back in. We need to stop letting the teachers' unions push us around with this, that, and the other. We need to rein this school back in. We're the adults. We can tell them if we want them to dress like where's Waldo over there, then that's what we tell them to do. We're so worried about offending somebody. Let's take these damn policies and let's go at them when they mean something and put something in them. This little red ink that's crossed out is practically nothing.
Paul, I mean, I feel like I kind of hear what you're saying there, but honestly, when I read it, I kind of like what they've done. I think less is more in these policies. Right, when you look at A, articles of clothing that deter clear identification of a student. That, right, we take all the, right, you put, the more words you put in there, the more opportunities there are for the kids to say, well, I'm not doing whatever we chose to highlight, and you guys didn't say I can't do this, so I can't do it. So I think general is better. I guess the question I have on, right, but I think I like what I see here. On I, clothing that exposes undergarments or does not cover the body. I mean, when I don't know what the kids wear to school, but I know when I go to sporting events, I see kids with jeans that are 80% tatters. Does that mean that clothing like that would then be, again, in violation of the dress code?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, and I assume that would be the
But
intent.
who knows, because it's so vague, it's up to their determination, like, it doesn't say. I mean,
I truly feel that with it being so vague, that it's gonna put more pressure on Ryan and Mary to police a policy that is so broad. And their time is way too valuable, and there is way too much going on in our school and in our district for them to police somebody's clothing. And it's very difficult to say that their body is covered, but what parts of their body is covered? I mean, that's like telling a young man that it's okay to wear inappropriate tight shorty shorts and no top, no bottom. He's covered a part of his body. That's how vague this could be interpreted if they really want to push back. And I'm sorry, but she has better things to do than to go through each individual student that wears something inappropriately and call into the office and send them home to change.
Yes.
Actually, what was asked at the last meeting with this dress policy was to kick it back to the educators, kick it back to Mike and Angela and Mary, and that's exactly what happened. And this is what our educational experts came back to us with, is what they can work with. It is their
because they don't want to
discretion.
deal with it, they don't want to have to deal with
Excuse
policing
me.
people.
We worked on it and discussed it extensively in our committee meeting, and this is what our educational professionals came up with that suits both buildings for age-appropriate dress. And they were asked specifically how many incidents per week or per month that they have to dress code a student, and it was one or less. Both of them had to think for a long moment to say the dress is rarely a problem, and they only have to address the dress code maybe once or less per week or every few weeks.
They don't
And
have
this
to
is
or
what
they
they
don't
came
want
up
to.
with.
Because we have had people
nearly
complaining that
seems
girls are
confusing.
coming to school
Angela,
rotating out.
You must submit, you must be.
It was hashed out extensively, and it was all but one in agreement So this is what's being brought to the board as what's going to work for the people in our buildings.
Okay.
It gives parents and students the choices to be able to make, to dress themselves every day and show up to school ready to learn. And that's exactly what Mary said is already happening, and the dress code is really an issue.
Did you want to speak?
Oh, good.
David?
We're not gonna have uniforms at the school, period. One board member wants it, the rest of us are not gonna get it. We hashed the dress code over and beat it to death. This is the best reading I've seen it so far. The administration is interested in this, or being able to use this or work with this. I think we just put it in the vote, vote it up and down, to like it, don't, and move on.
Any other comments? Bob?
If a person feels passionate about something, you use every means necessary. To just slide things through, Dave, just scooting through, you know as well as I do, being a mechanic and whatnot, to troubleshoot something, you tell me the 15 things that's okay, and tell me the two things that's not okay, and I'll have a solution for you. I have heard that some people are in the administration would be in favor of school uniforms. So my question is, and I'm coming up with an example, I don't know what you call them, yoga pants? I mean, that covers every piece of skin, except that it turns their skin to a different color, whatever color pants are, you might as well have none on. The yoga pants gonna be okay for this dress code? I say they should not be in school. I mean, the deal is, you can solve the problem by making this more concise. I think we've got enough split in the committee that we deserve not to have this rammed through because of expedience, or kick it down the road.
I guess I have to speak to ramming it through. How many times have we discussed this?
Since August.
Since August. So I don't know where you come up with that we've rammed it through. We've discussed it and discussed it, we've brought it here, we've taken it back, we've discussed it some more. And that is what the committee's come up with. So as Dave said, you have the right to either vote it in or not vote it. And if it doesn't pass, then we'll go back and do something else.
Well, when is the school board going to stand up for a policy that gives these people the freedom to teach? Let's get back to just teaching. This school board is not a petri dish for a social experiment.
They helped write it.
It's not a petri dish for all these social experiments that this wokeism and everything and political correctness is pushing. If we don't take a stand on something, we'll fall for anything.
Mark, you want to speak, and then after that, we're going to vote.
Yeah, what I would say is that I think there are some specifics in this dress code policy. And it is true, it does not create a required uniform. It gives the responsibility for dress and appearance to the students and their parents, which is not a crazy concept. The idea that people can decide how it is they want to dress. It assigns the actual written dress code to be created for the individual schools based on the understanding of the age of the students and to minimize the amount of disruption in school, I believe is how I understood the discussion. and it lays out what is inappropriate at school in a very reasonable manner. And I believe, I mean, I've talked with Mike about this extensively, and I believe that this is the direction that many school districts have found themselves going. And yes, I agree that we should, be focusing on teaching and learning. And if having a more strict dress code results in more disciplinary action needing to be taken against students, that would seem counter to that focus of teaching.
There's many a study out here that says.
So at
that
this
doesn't
point,
require-
we will call for a vote. All those in favor of the, we can do it by roll call.
This might be, that's why I roll call, so make sure I get it. Angela? No. Dave?
Yes.
Paul?
No,
Chris?
Yes.
Dylan?
Yes.
Mark? Desi?
Yes.
Mark Hanson?
Yes.
Jess? Robert?
Yes.
Veronica?
Yes.
Rachel?
Yes.
Chad?
Yep.
Jenny?
Yes. It passes. Anything else?
Only that, at the next meeting, we will be, Mike hinted at it, but if you could just share with us more explicitly what we're looking at the next meeting.
We want to look at our drug and alcohol, make sure that, part of it was some of the consequences we look at. I had Scott and Ryan take a look at it, and we want to make sure that it's thoroughly thought out and works, just like this last one. And I would say,
Yeah.
this dress code policy is not, I'm not saying it's perfect either, but Paul, we've had conversations about it at least now multiple times, that there's a specific thing that still needs to come forward through, and this is, whether it's Bangor or anybody else. We have these tough conversations, and we at least put it out there, and then if it's all ripped pants, we want to take them right off the table. I mean, then that goes to Angela and Mary, and we say that that's got to go. But you're going to take yoga pants out there, I mean, I don't know if that's the road you want to go down. I know you do, but not everybody might want to go down there. But at least we're having the conversations, and we have something to start with, and it can always come back. These can always be revisited. And if there's something really that you now know what you want to describe or discuss or have in this, then you bring that forward. But I guess that's what I was looking for since August, that we would come back with some specifics, and we were very specific, and then we were more general. But we do now have some conversations with Mary and Angela, and we can move forward with this to see how it works.
well, we still got a second reading to pass.
Yeah.
We did.
I get and this isn't relative to the vote, I guess, but in here it says that the guidelines for student dress, developed and enforced by the administration of the individual schools. So is that, does the administration manages that policy? That's not school board policy? I guess that's right, because it seems like that works together with this.
It works together with this. It's like, we talked about blankets. It's my easiest thing to go with. And it's harder at the middle school level when kids run around with blankets and they make them capes, and it's a disruption. And that can be something that's very specific that Angela has removed at the middle school. Okay. And hats. She could say, there aren't any hats because you beat each other with them, you steal them, you destroy them, and it's not okay to have hats. Mary can say, hats are okay, and say we have a problem with them. And that's why that says at the specific order. It could be something that Jane and Laura and Ellen come up with, that they're like, this isn't gonna happen at the next month. Somerset, or, you see what I'm saying? So we tried to give them the flexibility and that was age appropriate as well.
You tell them what they can wear,
The agenda.
and you automatically remove what they can't wear out of the conversation.
We're moving on. Transportation.
I'll report on that briefly. We didn't have a quorum, so, no, that was Tri-County. We discussed, we have the 3 buses now. We discussed the start of the school year was very smooth. Larry Novak came and discussed the training that he does with the bus drivers. We're very lucky to have Larry comes in, a new bus driver needs to have 40 hours of training for the federal requirements, and then 16 hours for all drivers that have been with us for a while. Larry will do it from, you'll see him over here in the parking lot doing the actual hands-on, but he also likes to get a few hours of book discussions started before they actually get behind the wheel. And, you know, some school districts probably have to train, have to have somebody they pay to come in and put the drivers through that training. We do have the plow truck and the sander early, late last year. We are planning on, again, plowing our office, the bus garage, and some of the areas next year. And so that gives us a plow truck and sander, the older truck, the transmissions are getting fixed, and we have a couple of the tractors, so maybe we'll try. One of the things we discussed under other, we have all of our buses and vehicles have radios, two-way radios, and a lot of times those are quicker ways to get in communication. So what we're going to try to do is we're going to get base stations. When I say base station, it's not the old-fashioned thing you press down and speak into. It's going to be a high-quality walkie-talkie. And I've talked to at least 3 of the principals, and they're in favor of having their secretaries and themselves having one, and we'll probably have one in our office, because sometimes it's a lot quicker to get on and say, hey, could you please track down student A, B, or C, because I think he's on the wrong bus, he or she's on the wrong bus. And it's a lot quicker maybe than calling bus garage and them not knowing, you know, them having to call a school or to track it. So, we're kind of excited about that, because I think that it'll just be a little quicker to track down students that have gone on the wrong bus or didn't pick up or something like that. So that was one of the things that we're going to implement sooner rather than later. And that was
Any other questions for our presentation?
I feel like, I think it was transportation committee who talked, I wasn't at this meeting, but on those previous meetings, talked about a structure for storage. Was there any
we have
discussion on that?
We've talked about that with them, and it was actually one of our budget meetings, but so we'll see where that goes forward.
Tri-County?
Tri-County, we did not have a quorum, but we did have a brief meeting. I'm sure Jason will report out on that. And we do have the cooperative agreement that we need to discuss tonight. We are trying to, I was hopefully going to go, one thing that's kind of a neat thing that we did report on is that we're supposed to go to Chimbro today to look at their training facility for the welding program, and we are in discussions with Tri-County to have a satellite program in the old shop area with welding, but we need to kind of see what infrastructure we need to put in there, 16 days down the side where they used to be. And then whatever the parts and pieces we need for that. So hopefully that will be something that we can get up and running. And I guess I would put a thought in the back of your minds as board members that when we cooperate with Tri-County on a program, you know, they can get it up and running with some of their Perkins money to hire a person, but sometimes there's infrastructure improvements that we might need to make, but those would be long-term benefits for the building and for the potential program that we could, if we had to, we could run on our own down the road if they chose to, you know, move it up to their facility or something happen. But so I'm just saying we might need to put a little bit of our own money in, but we would also be cooperating, and we'll let you know when this all happens, if it happens, with Tri-County on some of their funds too. But we're really kind of hoping that we could open up that piece of the building and maybe have welding on one side and like pipe fitting on the other side. Just open up a couple different opportunities for our students right here. And the only reason we got along with Chimbro is because Brian Levitt called the state of Maine to see what they would recommend for us having for like ventilation and those types of things. And they didn't really get back to us as quickly as is trimmed over that, so they're gonna kind of just do a scope and sequence of what we need. And we want to look at what they have next week, so hopefully that'll move forward and I'll give you more information as it moves forward.
Okay, old business none, new business. I'm Brian.
Yep, sorry, I was like, do we have to vote on the check that you were getting all of
No. Tri-County Cooperative Agreement.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Motion and second on the floor, any discussion?
I think this year, the contract needs to be,
Yeah, 23, 24. Yeah, it's the same agreement that we've had in the past. And I think that's all good. It'll say 23, 24. No, this is for 22, 23.
Anything else? All those in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Staff resignation.
Yes, we have Ashley Cart, science, in Columbus Regional High School. We have Brett, Tech 1, special ed, Columbus Regional High. Richard Candido, custodian at Tech 1, special ed, Columbus Regional High School. He was originally a custodian, and then he resigned as a custodian, and then came on as an ed tech, and then he's come back up to Becky Weatherby, physical education teacher, EDS. Carol Moore's world language, as you know, we gave her the 1 year, we do have to sure what's going to happen with that. Darren Red was an interventionist, Mary Grant, and Robert Bass was a bus driver. Yeah, I accept those.
Okay, nominations.
Just want to add with regret to Ms. Clark.
In a motion to, we have an interventionist that's going to come along as a teacher at Sebastopol Elementary School, so that would be good. That takes a motion in a second.
Right. Do I hear a motion? Someone? Second? Motion and second on the motion? I'm sorry, maybe it wasn't.
Second.
Thank you. There is a motion and second on the floor to accept the nomination of Jesse Romero. All those in favor? Opposed? That passes. Staff appointment.
Yes, Hannah Moody, being at Tech 3 at Columbus Regional High School. She was previously over at Somerset as a life skills teacher. Joel Stevens has been around to help us out on multiple long-term subs. He'd like to Ed Tech 3 at Math Interventionist at Somerset. Michael Holtz, maintenance part-time. The district, Scott Diana Cook, and ES, Michelle Davis at Tech 1 at ES.
And those do not require any action.
They do not require it.
Staff transfers, there are none. Any future agenda items?
I'm just bringing this up again about Sebastian Cook pickup line. Something needs to be done immediately about this. This is so dangerous. Cars are halfway in the road lining up to pick up kids. Buses have to go out around them. Traffic is stopping. There's been almost accidents daily. Today, there was kids walking down the road while a bus is in the other lane trying to go around. Somebody is going to get hurt or there's going to be an accident. Something needs to be done immediately about this. Parents should not be allowed to line up on the street to pick up kids. They should not be allowed there at all. Something needs to be done.
Thank you. Any other agenda items?
So if this is a future agenda item, and it's that dangerous, so we're gonna wait, we're gonna kick the can down the road on this one?
No, I'm sure somebody's.
Well,
going to.
okay, let me mention something. So a community member had a bunch of other community members go to him. They were talking amongst themselves, and he's a police officer who knows something about safety. He contacted Mr. Hammer in December and CC'd Ms. Donahue about it. Nothing has been done about this since then. I brought this up at the last meeting. Nothing has been done about it. Something needs to be done right now. Are we gonna wait until somebody gets into an accident or one of these kids walking down the road going home gets hit by a car? We're about to have cross-country students running down the road because they run from here down to Hope Road.
That's not gonna happen again. That is not gonna happen again.
Okay, so we're not gonna
Those
let them.
students should not be running on that road, so I will make sure there are no, the first thing I will do is make sure there's no students on the road.
Okay, well.
Dean and I and Jim Ricker are looking into this situation.
Well, the first thing that should be done is that cars should not be lined up on the road, because we're not at the cross-country students right now. So the first thing needs to be removing cars and doing something else with the pickup line.
Where would you like to put them?
We can discuss it, but it needs to be done immediately before somebody gets hurt.
The reason they're out back, not out back, is because somebody's gonna get run over back. Everybody going back and forth between those cars out back, there's just as much potential for somebody to get hurt out there as there is along the road. I'm not saying this isn't a problem, Angela, and if somebody emailed me about it, it was a police officer, and feels like they have that expertise. I've told the bus drivers not to drive around there. So I have talked to people, and Dean and I have discussed it.
I'm sorry, the bus drivers aren't supposed to drive around there. What are they supposed to do?
Well, they're not gonna, they shouldn't be out crossing the road. We've had that conversation with them.
But
So
they have to
wait.
because
They
the
have to
cars are
wait.
there.
If they have to wait, or we have to try to put 2 layers of cars inside the parking lot, or if you want to put all those cars down the back road and make them wait longer, that's fine. If you're telling me as the board, you want me to not have cars parked on that road, then tomorrow I will put cones out there and nobody will be on that street.
Well, then do it.
Before they were parking on that road, the problem was here. And the kids crossing from the school going down, there was buses coming through and you had little kids running back and forth. So
Running back and forth to where?
from
'Cause right now,
from the Somerset, from the Sedastica entrance, down over to get to their car, they're crossing as buses are going.
but they don't let, the pickup kids aren't even let out of the building until the buses leave.
Right, because they changed the way that it goes, because right now you've got middle school parents running, it created a ton of chaos, that's why he had them starting to line up there.
Okay, so
That's
this
why
one
he's
is
working
this.
with DOT to make that, they understand that, but I don't know if it can happen right now. I feel like if we put those cars down here,
Stop it.
it would be a bigger,
This is an important
A bigger
thing. This
issue.
move-on narrative that we got over on that side is not relevant.
It's future agenda items.
It don't matter, it's
It's
an immediate
important.
concern.
Danger to children,
so we can wait.
All this move on and call the question is a bunch of bunk.
So where the middle school goes and the kids come around, you know, the middle school's here, they come in, they pull down around and they go. There's a crosswalk there and there's usually someone out there directing those students to either go or to not go with oncoming traffic. So if they're running across, is it possible to have someone else out there to make sure that they make it to the small school appropriately? Maybe another staff member, I mean, they're still on the clock at that point, so it's maybe 20 minutes at most. Because the buses used to come down the side of the elementary school and wrap around and then pull out. Is that still a possibility to drive more people in the actual parking lot to wait? I'm just trying to brainstorm.
I've
I
tried to
don't
make
know.
it as well, and it's not as much an issue when it's not the winter time. Nobody brings this up until it's the winter time, and then they get pushed out into the road.
Because
I've had a bus driver and a bus environment push the snowbanks back. That's marginally successful, but this is an issue in the winter time. And some of that's out of our control, and that's in our control. If the board's saying they don't.
It's not out of our control because we can change it and make it does not line up there.
So what time is release at Sebastica?
The buses, so every day runs essentially like, pretty much like clockwork. The buses come over and from 2:30 to 2:40, within those 10 minutes, the buses leave and they're pulling out every day by 2:40. And then our parent pickup line, we get out in 10 minutes from 2:40 to 2:50. One of the problems that I've noticed, and I put out lots of things in our newsletters, but it's outside of our control to some degree, is parents come early because they want to, I'm not sure what the rationale is, if they want to be the first person in the pickup line or whatever the reasons are, I'm not sure of. But part of the problem is that line does start forming early because people come before 2:40. And so one thing that would be helpful, which again is outside of my control, is if parents didn't come until 2:40.
2:45.
Because then they would be able to just, I mean, truly, like at 2:40, because I'm down doing the lower dismissal for the older kids on the lower lot, like clockwork every day. It's 2:39, 2:40, buses pull out, and parent pickup line pulls in, and we have them pull all the way up to the end of the school, so we're getting as much traffic off the street as possible. But that line has already started to form out, it's already been formed out by the road, you know, well before buses come, and that is something that, you know, I'm constantly putting in the newsletters what time parent pickup is, but it, to some degree, is outside of my control when people start forming that line, even though they know there's no possibility of them being let through until buses have left. So that, I mean, I will say that's one of the challenges, and I know there's a lot of factors that contribute to that. Some people have kids at the middle school, and then they pick up at the middle school and then drive directly over, whatever the reasons might be. But either way, like it, time-wise, it seems to flow like that every day. It's 10 minutes for buses, approximately 10 minutes. Usually by 2:50, every parent and the pickup lines are gone.
So is this something that Newport PD could assist us with? Just telling parents to clear that street?
He's been CC'd on that email.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say we've got, I would also add, like, we try to get some more of that traffic out of the road area by allowing our older students, our 3rd and 4th grade, are picked up in a different area to try to get at least some of that line out of the road, but it still leaves, we have a significant number of pickups, so, you know, the earlier parents come, the harder that.
So based off of social media posts, a lot of people are not reading their newsletter. So is it possible to put out a robocall maybe, like you cannot line up due to safety reasons for this? I mean, they're gonna get it in a text or they're gonna get a phone call, maybe just to try to help alleviate some of this, because, you know, it is a danger, so we do have to figure out something in the winter, and if it's not now, it needs to be soon, but I don't know.
And to say it's not out of our control is bogus, because if you tell parents that they cannot come until 2:40, whatever time, and they cannot line up here, then enforce it. Like, it's not out of our control. We have to do something about it, because if somebody gets hit or somebody's in an accident, it's gonna fall on the school, and somebody's gonna sue the school.
Are you saying Newport won't come here and say you can't stand on the street?
I haven't asked him to do that yet.
If you see a blue light there, and someone's getting a summons for impeding the right of way, they won't line up next time.
Better find someplace else to go.
Or you can use, is the sheriff got jurisdiction here? This is still Penobscot, right? It's till you get down there.
Newport.
It's Newport, but sometimes on the rural roads, the sheriff is involved too. So if they ain't gonna, if this is the true hazard, we ain't gonna wait till next month to get this straightened out. Somebody will be run over out there and we'll be in the newspaper.
I have an idea of how we should be addressed tomorrow. Anything else? We are adjourned.
Sorry, I don't know.